This tower got changed. It is no longer called the Superstorm, but now it is called the Monarch of the Storms. Pretty interesting name change, but let's see what this does compared to the old Superstorm and if it's any better or not. So let's load up a game of Sanctuary Chimps. I don't really have the early game because I did all of this a while ago for some odd reason, but I never got to actually doing the actual game, so I don't have the recording of the first 14 rounds, but it's all pretty standard stuff. I'm just going to be doing a very simple game plan. When it comes to like the actual strategy involved with this is one of the most simple things I've done in a long time. It's very simple. As you get Oben, the Dartling Gunner at the bottom, it's going to be a 204 with a drums, discount, alk buff, all of that good stuff. And then I'll be going into the Superstorm after that. Well, it's not Superstorm, it's now Monarch of the Storms. Anyways, on the course of that name change, I'm not really sure why they did that. They kind of did do it, I guess. It's not so much of a rework. The tower still shoots the same projectiles. The only really different thing is that they now bounce everywhere, which is kind of cool and pretty funny. So we're going to be seeing where this makes it better and how so. And it actually surprised me a little bit. The other thing to note about this early game, it's very simple. The one thing that's not simple is that I am doing a complete camo skip. None of these towers have camo detection, and I will be popping every single camo with Oben's Brambles, which is pretty difficult to do on round 37 because there's a lot of stuff coming in and out. So we'll find a way to get that done. So I'm going to be able to get up the spads pretty easily. I unfortunately had to end up getting the camo foam just for a few rounds. I wasn't really sure how much this would be needed later on, but in reality, I think this could have been cut for something cheaper as a 020 Ninja, which would have really been able to save the very specific camo issues that I was having with the Dartling Gunner and Oben and the Druid. Well, the Druid more so, because Oben can actually detect camo. Oben will give camo to the Druids, but not be able to detect it. So I think that would have been able to beat like round 47, 48, and 45, the camos there. But unfortunately, all my efforts for the early game didn't really come to much of anything because I had to get that foam either way. I got the foam just because I thought it might have been necessary a little bit for the DDTs later on, but the Monarch of the Storms actually really came in clutch and did really well for the reason that they just bounce everywhere. If you get kind of lucky, it will just bounce back and blow everything back a second time, which is pretty cool. but we'll see that later in action. So with that, now I'm able to just start saving up, and I will save right into the Superstorm super early. I'm already starting to save up like a lot of cash after round 63, and then with the wall of trees and open brambles, we'll be able to do this with some manual micro on the Dartling Gunner a little bit later. But anyways, coming to like the role of Superstorm, it's been a pretty strange tower because it's very, very expensive and overkill in its job. So you could like get it in Chimps mode, but it took a long time to do it. And famously, a long time ago, you'd get the Superstorm and it would just make the game last for absolute ever, just because it stalled everything out so much. And this really comes into effect if you're using it on a map that's pretty long and all your defense is in the back of the track. If that's the case, then it still takes a very long time, even after now doing a lot more damage. But previously, it would not do much damage, and it would just take absolutely forever. And with that in the way, it's just kind of like, why are you using this? Your games are lasting nearly an hour. Now it does a lot more damage from some recent buffs. I think more even past that, and it like shoots out a lot more ball lightnings because of the Christmas decoration for the projectiles. They're like giant snowballs, so they're very visible. It's kind of funny to look at when you get a whole bunch of them. But now with that and how they bounce everywhere, it does a little bit more damage, so it doesn't take as long. But if it's a long map and your defense is way in the back, I still would say just don't use it, because it will make your game still last forever. But for a case like this on Sanctuary Chimps, it didn't really stall out rounds too much. 97 took a little bit of time, but stuff like 98 went down pretty smooth and all of that. So that was pretty cool, at least. It is just very expensive, and it is still pretty overkill. So I think it definitely is a lot more usable now just because of its patiency issues, but you definitely can get a good heavy save up and go all the way into it, especially pairing it with a tower like Bads. It just might be a little bit difficult for a lot of people to do, and because it is very expensive save ups are very intimidating for a lot of people. I don't really see it being used a whole lot by like as a popularity choice, but it definitely can be used if you want a crazy little challenge. So anyways, here I am. I'm going to be getting the Superstorm early round 82, which is indeed very, very early, and then literally everything else will be free. I will not have to do pretty much anything else, so we'll see that later. So yeah, this thing is bouncing around like crazy. I'm going to pretty much black border all of the late game until round 98. Round 98, it was just pure capping a lot because there really is not much else doing the damage. So it just sends the tornadoes everywhere, and when stuff breaks down too much, it starts to fall down. But previously, I noticed when I used Superstorm, it got inconsistent to round 95. The projectiles would just move slow, the DDTs would move past, but now how the tornadoes bounce around, they'll come back into like the middle and all of that stuff and be able to beat round 95 without any help. I really remember this much so on Ouch, so I might try the Superstorm again on Ouch, where I had to buy a whole lot of support, extra pop list, alk buff, all that stuff to be able to beat round 95. But now with it just bouncing across the map, I think it definitely can do it for a lot less. Round 98, as I said, it got pierce cap issues, but I solved this with a whole lot of RNG and using wall of trees at a good time to kind of figure that out, and then bringing the Dartling Gunner over to manual micro to be able to clean up any random stuff that's leaking. I was able to take that out, and round 99 was just again RNG 2. The one thing that I was disappointed with was round 100. I already know that Superstorm doesn't do anything to the bad, but what it can do is snipe the insides of the bad, and I was trying to find a solution that would just pop it at the very end, and a tornado all the way to the bottom would bounce back and snipe it, which I unfortunately just couldn't really get to work. So I did buy 2 first strikes and beat it that way. I did get 41,000 cash spare, and a lot of the money was spent just on round 100, but going into 100 with 70k spare is indeed pretty cool. Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!